noise?
That was me. Sorry.
They're just like tinkling in the background. Like, is there like a score to my life? This
What is
is
happening?
no, it's very strange. I will continue. September 16th, 2024. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Don't Panic, the technology podcast on Gadgets Internet U. I'm Sean Jennings, joined as always by two men, unfortunately suffering from nerve attenuation syndrome. It's Colby Rabineau and Dan Miller. Good evening, gentlemen. You got the black shakes tonight?
That'd make a good name for a cocktail.
Ooh, the black shakes. I like that.
Well, and what was the other name for it? The acronym?
Yes, NAS, the
NAS.
nerve attenuation syndrome.
Yeah.
Which had a cool logo. It was like the letters were written in like a stylized way everywhere in the movie. Like someone made like a logo.
That was one of those things where I was like, why does this have a logo?
Yeah, it was marketed well.
Like, does COVID have a logo? I guess there was like the circle, the little spikes coming off of it. I guess I never thought about that. It's kind of weird that COVID had a logo.
It's one of those movie things.
Yeah.
Good. Well, welcome, gentlemen, to this fine Monday evening.
Thank you. Yeah, excited to discuss this movie. I would never have watched it if it weren't for this, and I think those make some of the most interesting movies. One quick tech note is the last two movies I've watched, which were on. I did the thing where I watched it on the Apple TV on my TV with the AirPods Pro in my ears, and it's a pretty damn good way to watch a movie. Because, spoiler, because I've been watching these in the middle of the day when everyone else is working. That's the only way I can do it. But it's great. And I even accidentally had the thing where it pretends to play from a certain point in space where the Apple TV is. I forget what that's called.
Spatial audio.
Spatial audio. But there's a specific, spatial audio is the technology, but then this feature where it knows it's like what I normally have it on is fixed, and then whatever head tracking or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so I got up to get a drink, and I was like, well, I'll just walk over. Another cool thing is I can hear it perfectly while I walk over, but it moved way out behind me as I walked, which was unexpected. So that I might watch more movies this way. It's great.
Well, before we get into the movie, which I am absolutely excited to talk about, I did want to just see if there was anything else we wanted to discuss. Dan, I know you just got back from a trip.
Oh yeah.
You teased it on our last episode. If there was any takeaways from that adventure.
Montreal was great. I can highly recommend Montreal. The food is really good. They have this crazy stadium. Look up the Montreal Olympic Stadium. I saw it from a distance. So it was cloudy one day, and I saw this thing from a distance, and it felt very science fiction-y. I think it is the world's largest leaning tower. It's very cool.
Absolutely. Host to the 1976 Summer Olympics.
And it has this weird fabric roof that you pull off, which it turns out has been as bad of a design idea as it sounds like in a place that gets an incredible amount of snow. They should call up Fasten Masters and get this sorted out. But yeah, that was cool. Anything else weird about Montreal? No, yet another country where it's super easy to enter the country. Yeah, I only took the Framework laptop. The battery life is not as good as a Mac, but otherwise it was fine. I was able to connect to the conference Wi-Fi and the hotel Wi-Fi. Linux has gotten better. You connect to a Wi-Fi that needs you to agree to the terms of service or whatever, and it pops up the thing.
Wow.
I know.
That's huge.
Yeah. Things have improved. I think that's pretty much it. Although, shockingly, a city where the public transit, you can't just boop on and off, and there's no app you can use to, there's no app you can use to do anything with the transit. So that was annoying.
Did you have to use those funny loony and toony coins?
No, though if you got on a bus, or I guess just a bus, if you got on a bus and you didn't think to buy the card in advance, you could only pay in coins, which we did not have.
So did you have to get off the bus then?
We did not, because luckily there was someone standing outside of the airport who told us that we needed to get a card, but other people who tried to get on the bus did have to do that, which was tragic. Yeah. No, it was great. It's beautiful in September. Definitely go in September. It sounds like it gets pretty hot and humid in the summer. And here's another funny thing. The bus doors and the doors to the public transit doors were weird. They just all looked a little odd. And so, for example, the doors to the subway stations, they pivot in the middle. So instead of opening like this, they like pivot here. And so when the door is fully open, there's a horizontal door that's sort of facing you like a book, and then it rotates around, which is odd. And the bus doors, when someone would leave, it's one of those systems where you have to press the door to open it. And it was so aggressive. Like, it would open for 3 seconds and then close again very fast. And when you have like a bus full of people with luggage from the airport, that's a problem. And I was like, why is it so aggressive? And then I realized, like, right, if it's like negative 20 degrees outside, you don't want some lackadaisical door to just open. Yep, there you go. There's the bus, the STM bus. You don't want some door to just open for 5 seconds for no reason at all.
Need to invent like bus revolving doors or something.
Yeah.
Ooh. You know, they should have a bus where it just like doesn't have sides on it, and you could just like get on and off it. Oh, it's a streetcar. They already have that. Never mind.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. I don't think Flighty continued to work well. The CBP app is amazing. Lena got global entry. And if she hadn't been in the global entry line, I would have, been basically through her just as fast, because if there were people in the global entry line, they pulled from that. If there weren't, they pulled from the CBP pre-clearance. You use the app line. So yeah, that was great. Yeah, no notes. I didn't and I got my global entry appointment finally after like 6 months or more of waiting. And I could have done it in Montreal. I could have done my interview in Montreal, but I didn't, because I did get this email that was like, when you return to the US, you can do your interview. And I was like, great, I'll do it when I get back to Seattle, because we're getting back on Saturday. I've got nothing else to do. But then we showed up to the airport and they did the immigration stuff on that side. I was like, oh, damn it. Now I have to like actually schedule an appointment. But no, I could have done it in Canada at that airport. So that's a quick addendum to our airline flight episodes. Soon I'll finally have global entry. Lena had global entry. It didn't really help her with making the process any smoother for her, nor did it make it any faster. So we'll see how it goes for me.
Yeah, maybe when you go somewhere more exotic than Canada, it'll come in handy. Who knows?
Or coming back to a more like maybe in New York or LA, it matters more.
Yeah, everything works perfectly at the Seattle airport. Everyone knows that.
Except for the fact that it's all under construction.
Yes. Well, good, Dan. Well, it's nice to have you back. Glad you had a nice time. Got the Dan seal of approval on Montreal, which is good.
Yep, it's great. They speak French there, so buyer beware.
Yes. Yes. Did you run into any issues with that?
Oh, well, no, only because Lena kind of speaks French. And so one funny thing was she didn't know, because especially in the Northeast, like the fact that they speak French in Quebec is like, I felt like a well-known fact. It was like a quicksand of geography. I was constantly bombarded with that in school and stuff. And so I didn't even bother to tell her. And so she was a little surprised. She's like, wow, they take the French really seriously here. I'm like, yeah, like extremely seriously. And Lena kind of speaks French. And so she would greet, people in French. with such an accent that they would immediately fire off into French, like, blah, 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 blah. And then 9 times out of 10, she'd be like, sorry, that was all I had. And then a couple times they'd be like, wow, but your accent was so good. So that was funny. But I learned that in Montreal, or Quebec, they don't speak like the French you learn in school. They don't speak Paris French. They speak like, a different-ish kind of dialect, which I did not know.
So Rhode Island, a lot of French Canadians came from Canada and settled in Rhode Island. And I took French class in high school, and our teacher was, this like Canadian French guy from Rhode Island. And there was a girl who, I think she was 1 or 2 years ahead of us. And, she was like a star French student or whatever. And she went to like Harvard. And she went to Harvard in her freshman year. And then she came back and she was like, yes, everyone at Harvard made fun of me for my accent in French. In Harvard.
You're busted French Canadian French.
Right. Because it was not proper. It's Canadian.
Oh, that's funny.
Lena said something to someone and they laughed, and apparently it was because like that is a thing that is said in France, and the only people who say that in Quebec, it felt like it was like old people. It would be like if someone said, "Oh, darn tootin'," like that. That's like what she was told it sounded like for her to say that. Yeah, it was funny, but no, it was a great time. Definitely go. You can take the Amtrak up there. Food is great, relatively cheap. Yeah.
And you can see the big leaning tower.
You can see that it is truly incredible because it's like many Olympic installations. It's kind of out along the outskirts. And so near it is this botanic gardens that we were in, and peeking out through the clouds like Mount Rainier that one time is this alien installation. And apparently it's an office building now that it's very interesting.
Neat. Well, good. Well, the only other thing I wanted to talk to you guys about before we get into the movie, maybe this will be brief if you have you guys had a chance to check out any of the new Mac operating systems that came out today? I don't know if you've had a chance to upgrade and play with them at all.
No, I was just deflecting the restart your computer tonight notification.
All right.
I did download them. I made my icons big, which is I didn't even know that was a thing you can do now. You can get rid of the text on the bottom of the icons, and then all your icons get a little bit bigger.
Ooh. Is this on your phone?
Yeah.
Wow.
You can do the dark mode icons and all that customizable stuff.
Yeah, if you long click on the home page and you press customize, yes.
Edit up in the top and then customize, yeah.
Yeah. But that's as far as I've gone. I haven't done any of the customization stuff. I saw that Widgetsmith, which I own, I think. Is that a paid app? I have it and I've never used it. They have a whole new system going on where you can customize your home screen. And so I was going to look into that, but I haven't yet.
Yeah, I did get to, like everything involving the continuity feature between iPhone and Mac, I got the iPhone mirroring to work on my computer one time, and then it never worked again. Which is a story of everything I've ever tried on continuity. But the first time it worked, it was extraordinarily cool. Like you could flip through the stuff and scroll through stuff, and like it was the whole phone. And now it won't connect anymore. So
I did already see a fun trick on Threads, I think. So to get to Control Center, you pull down from the upper right. But now there are multiple categories. If you pull down from the upper right and you keep pulling down, you can instantly scroll through the categories without having to tap or do a second gesture.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I'm not like the busiest guy on earth,
What?
But I don't know if anyone has the time to customize all the things that can now be custom. Like
the kids
it's
do.
borderline too much. Yeah, but okay, the kids are really customizing their control center. Really,
Probably.
really, it's
I
like,
don't know.
I can make the Shazam button bigger. Oh, that's really cool. Like, maybe I'm wrong.
I feel like this is a thing people have been complaining about vis-a-vis Apple products for years. It's like you can't customize it. When are they going to make it customizable like Android?
Yeah, and we all love how
Yeah.
customizable Android is.
Right.
That's why anytime I've ever picked up an Android phone, I've never been able to use it because none of them are even remotely the same.
Well, get ready.
Well, but you know what I forgot to mention this last week when I was assembling my framework computer. I was thinking about, didn't you get an Android phone where you could change the case, like the shell or something? You could install like different colored like back plates or something.
I did have an Android phone once that had some interesting design things, but I don't think that was one of them. The phone I had was like one of the first ones that had like an always on display component, where it wasn't like the full display like your iPhone does now, but it was like a little square in the display that would like show the time and your notifications like all the time, or like whenever you looked at it or something.
I believe, Colby, a quick search of the pics on Don't Panic indicates to me was it the Moto X?
That sounds right.
Maybe not though.
Moto
No,
X
I don't
marks the spot.
Because Colby picked it in episode 26.
And this is the one I was thinking of. You can change the back.
Can you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a little piece of plastic.
Oh, well, I guess you could change the back then.
Look at that.
Anyway, we'll be able to play with some of these new features coming up. I was just curious if you guys had a chance to dive in at all, but
no, but I will have plenty of time to dive in.
Yes.
So if you need a reporter on the assignment, consider me duly assigned.
Well, and all the AI stuff's still another month or so away. So, there's still more to come. Well, guys, why don't we pivot on over? We have been, we're on this quest for technology-based films. Previously, last time, we talked about Hackers, which was an awesome movie. I think we all really enjoyed it a lot. But we pivoted pretty hard this week. Going from less actual tech to more fantasy tech in Johnny Mnemonic, the 1995 cyberpunk action film, directed by Robert Longo and starring Keanu Reeves in one of his early roles. This was immediately following Speed, which was arguably his big sort of mass market. I mean, he was in Bill and Ted before that, Point Break, but Speed, this was right after Johnny Mnemonic was his follow-up. Guys, what do we think about this film?
It's quite
bad.
Was it what you expected, knowing nothing about it going in?
Well,
I mean, I had no expectations. I thought, so the only thing I was really doing was comparing it to Hackers. Was that the name of the other movie we watched?
Yes.
And I thought this movie, it was kind of more fun. In a way, it held up better in some ways because it's so weird. It felt a bit more timeless in that it wasn't trying to be of a particular time, even though it does say 2021 in the starting credits. But no, it was weird, and like I said, I would never have watched this movie if it weren't for the show. So I appreciated watching it. I don't necessarily know if it was good, but yeah, no, I have more thoughts. That's sort of my opening statement. It was very strange. It's like I don't think the acting was good at all. I thought Ice-T was actually not bad compared to some of the other characters. Has Ice-T had any other movie roles?
Probably. Sean, are you muted?
I'm gonna check this
muted.
out.
I never mute myself, so I get confused when I am muted. Ice-T's actually been in a lot of movies, and this reminded me, he was in two. This is a total side conversation, but you're going to be glad that I brought it up. He was in another movie this same year called Tank Girl. I don't know if you're familiar.
Oh, yes.
Where he played a half man, half kangaroo in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. In a highly, highly similar role as to what he did in this, which was just funny to me. I never put those together. The other thing is he's J-Bone in this film. He's known as T-Saint in Tank Girl. Coincidence? Probably, but that was a hoot. If you haven't seen Tank Girl,
I have not seen it. My junior year roommates loved it.
It's 100 times more bizarre than Johnny Mnemonic. I will say that.
I gotta see it.
It looks awesome. I'm watching the trailer right now.
Oh, it is just like, yeah, taking it to 11 for sure. I thought to kind of set us starting on this film. Do you guys remember the opening crawl from Johnny Mnemonic? It was a lot.
Yes. Was it more text than Star Wars?
Oh, it went on and on. So let me, if you don't mind, for the folks who are listening who haven't seen it, let me remind you of what we're doing here with Johnny Mnemonic. New century. Age of terminal capitalism. The armored towers of multinational corporations rise above the ruins of the democracies that gave them birth. Soldiers of the Yakuza defend them. Hackers, data pirates, low-tech media rebels are the enemy, burrowing like rats in the walls of cyberspace. A new plague convulses the cities. Nerve attenuation syndrome. Incurable, fatal epidemic, bringing fear and misery as old as the species itself. But the most precious data is sometimes entrusted to elite private agents, wet-wired to function as human databanks. Mnemonic couriers. Open film. It's a lot.
Do you have that?
It's a lot.
Text? Can you paste the text into Slack?
No, I was literally reading off of a YouTube video of it scrolling through. And actually, I was having trouble keeping up.
And it was not well written. Like, there's so much flowery language in there, obscuring what they're actually talking about. Like, the whole point of an opening crawl is to do a narrative dump for things that you need. And I felt like a good chunk of that, a third or half, was just like flavor text. And it's like, don't have me read the flavor text. Show me the flavor text.
Show me the flavor text.
Yeah, I'm writing that down. That's a good episode title.
And that actually ties. I didn't think that the set design in this movie was very good. It was fine. It was nothing like Hackers. And so, like, actually now when you read the opening crawl, I was like, I wish that they had gone more in the set design, because the opening crawl is also super weird, and it gives you this visual of what this place is like that the movie doesn't really live up to. IMO.
Yeah, I mean, there are a ton of movies that are like set in the near future, but made in the 80s and 90s that are post-apocalyptic / punk / hackery. I mean, there's a ton of them. This is not the best looking one. Not even really close.
What, Blade Runner came out 15 years before this or something like that, and looks
I mean, like The Fifth Element blows this out of the water. I mean, there's so many other good ones, but this is not a good movie. There's charming elements. I think I smiled watching it. It's not a good movie. I disagree with you, Dan. You started out by saying the acting is terrible in this movie. I'm going to challenge that. The acting is terrible in this movie, except for Keanu Reeves and arguably, what's his name? Henry Rollins, who actually I thought was very good in this. The thing about Keanu Reeves is you're getting Keanu Reeves.
Oh, right. I mean,
this was Keanu Reeves. Like, you could not ask him to be more Keanu Reeves in the movie. And every time he did, like, I was looking at the quotes page, and I could hear him just saying these things, when he enters, he goes, double cheese, anchovies. You know, he just does these lines like, you know, when he puts a guy, hit me. You know, it's so great. I loved him in this.
Yeah, I guess I didn't think about him because he's just always the same. And is Henry Rollins the Jesus guy?
No, do you know that was Dolph Lundgren?
I don't know who that is.
That's from Rocky IV, the big Russian guy from that movie, famous actor. I didn't even know it was him because he had the beard on. No, Henry Rollins played the doctor, Spider was his name.
Oh yeah, he was good, but he only really came in at the end.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I thought he was also good. But yeah, Keanu Reeves, he has these like scenes where it's him facing directly at the camera, but you can't see his eyes and you just see his mouth. That was a whole thing too. And so the mouth is like extremely exaggerated. But those scenes were not well shot.
When it was like downloading into his brain, his mouth was really intense.
Yeah.
He screams a lot.
Yeah. He did the best he could. Let's see. I have some notes. Let me see.
Oh, please.
Notes from the beginning. Yeah, and like to the point of the set design, there's like when he's wandering through the riot in Beijing, I think. It just looks like any other riot. There's like a neon advertisement sign. That's the only thing you get that's sort of cyberpunk. And he looks so out of place. Like that, I just thought that was weird.
Yeah, one of the interesting things about the production of this movie was that it was originally meant to be a low budget film. And Keanu Reeves came on board before Speed came out, and he was kind of an established star, but Speed was such a mega hit that Sony came in, dumped a bunch of money on them, and said, make this into a massive blockbuster. This was supposed to be more of an art film. The original director wanted to shoot it in black and white.
That explains a lot.
And so I think that's where that weird tone comes in, where some of it is like they're trying to get thoughtful on you and that, but then some of it is like just explosions. It's got a weird vibe.
That explains a lot. And so does that mean that Sony used a doubler?
Oh no, you can't get into the technology of this movie, man. It's such gibberish. It's great. I mean, what do you guys think about the concept of a mnemonic courier? Let's just start there. Putting 80 gigabytes in your head.
I mean, I think that's fine. I don't think that was a crazy part of the premise. Like you still do this today, but less and less, not necessarily because of security, but because of time. If you want to transfer 500 terabytes from New York to LA, it's much faster to pay someone to fly from New York to LA than it is to do the transfer.
I totally get that. Here's what I didn't understand. And please tell me if this, because by the way, I'm not joking. At my job, I literally had to do this the other day. We had a huge print submission for new packaging, and I put it on a flash drive and physically delivered it. So, but my point is, at the beginning of the movie, Keanu Reeves comes in for the download. He puts in the wet wire. He puts the headset on. And the data is already, so it's, how big is it? Like the total data, it was like 200 gigabytes or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Much more. That's right. He had 80. He doubled it to 160, and it was like 320. Too big for his head, which also doesn't make, then how are they able to get it all on there if it didn't fit?
Well,
but okay.
It's synaptic leakage or whatever they said.
Well, but my point is, they bring out a little disc, smaller than a CD, a little disc that supposedly already has all the data on it. It would make more sense for them to just put an empty box in his head, lift the flap, put the disc in it, and he can transmit it there.
Right? Why didn't he just carry it?
But instead, he's got to put the goggles on. He's like flying through cyberspace. He's got to capture the still images on the I get it's a movie, but that really just bugged the crap out of me where I'm like, oh, okay, this is more of a plot device than anything that makes any kind of actual sense.
Yeah, I was also confused during that scene. Like, what was the data in the cigarette carton? What was the cigarette carton? There's so many like sleight of hands happening, and it didn't feel necessary.
Yeah, you had the little mini printer that printed out the 3 images, which you then fax, which I thought was interesting to the other person on the other end.
Yeah. But images as a decryption key was that was a nice. That seems plausible. It made it a better movie. Do I have any other notes from the beginning part? Maybe not. And I think next he went to confront the guy who gave him the job, right?
Well, he flies to Newark, which is the sort of the movie takes place in Beijing and then over in Newark. And this movie, I hope they didn't get any tax credits from Newark because they certainly didn't make it look very good.
I mean, it was an accurate representation.
They did no set dressings at all. This movie had more trash cans on fire than I think any movie I've ever seen. It really was the lazy man set decoration where it was like, oh, just rolling newspapers and burnt out cars. It was pretty straightforward as far as those things go.
Yeah. And I don't remember when this line happened. But at some point, the next thing in my notes after the doubler is someone was like, what do you want me to say? And then someone, I forget who, says, say bye, and then shoots them. And I was like, that's terrible dialogue. That is just awful.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. I love that. I live for that in these movies. What was the other, my other favorite line in the movie, and I forget when it was, somewhere in the middle. Keanu Reeves goes, you can't shoot me. And Takashi goes, not in the head. And, it's like, I love those liners.
And speaking of, go ahead, Colby.
I was going to say the worst. A thing that stuck out for me was his weird, like, rant. His tantrum that he had.
We got to talk about that.
When they blew up the van and he was just like, I can't do it anymore. I want to be in a hotel room with room service and expensive hookers or whatever.
I have the exact quote here, which I love. Listen to me. You see that city over there? That's where I'm supposed to be. Not down here with the dogs and the garbage and fucking last month's newspapers blowing back and forth. I've had it with them. I've had it with you. I've had it with all of this. I want room service. I want the club sandwich. I want the cold Mexican beer. I want the $10,000 a night hooker. I want my shirts laundered like they do at the Imperial Hotel in Tokyo. That was the whole.
That escalated quickly when it got to the $10,000 hookers because everything else is so relatively cheap.
He's like, he wants that cold Mexican beer. Which apparently they still have in the post-apocalyptic future. Yeah, no, that he honestly a tour de force. I'm shocked he didn't win the Oscar. It was great. He was so good in that.
To go back real quick, I love the cyber opera. I thought that was one of the coolest parts. It reminded me of in Star Wars the bubble opera. I don't know if you remember that from the Star Wars prequels.
Oh yeah. No, it's funny. I feel like every one of these movies has to do like the nightclub or like the evening entertainment of the future where everyone's wearing ridiculous outfits and there's always some tough people there because things have gone wrong in the world. Definitely a lot of tropes in this one, but that was fun. I love the club owner runner guy and then like his 2 very strange bodyguard ladies with the aggressive makeup who kind of just stared the whole time.
Yes.
They were a hoot.
And then there was a scene that was very similar to one in Hackers where he goes into the warehouse and finds the computer. He says, I need a computer. And then they find him the computer and it's like a computer warehouse, I guess. And there's all these parts on the shelves and he lists out all the parts he needs, including a GPL stealth module, which I thought was like, oh, so is this the part of the movie where like in Hackers, they like show all of the real like computer science textbooks? because GPL is like an open source thing, and no, it was just like a made up thing. The GPL is the name of the company that made the stealth module or whatever. So that was this.
Yeah, I need a Synologic 16, SOGO 7 data gloves, a GPL stealth module, one Birdine intelligent translator, Thompson iPhones, but EYE phones because he goes into the internet.
Yeah. And those scenes, like, I thought the last one was different, but the other scenes where he goes into the internet is it felt like it oscillated between like 2D 80s graphics and like pretty good graphics, and especially on like an HD TV, you could really tell when it was changing. And that also felt different from Hackers, where it felt like uniformly terrible the whole time, but at least it was uniformly terrible.
Yeah, to me, the sort of middle of the movie internet surfing scene in the I think it's like Bob's Computer Shop they make a reference to. I thought that was really neat, actually. Like, yes, interfacing with the internet with your hands. He's like, I need to make a phone call in the internet. Like yeah, with his hand, he's like,
and he types it out with his hands. Well, though, Vision Pro style, so I guess maybe he saw the future.
Well, I loved that because he does like a little puzzle and he does it wrong and it like shocks his gloves. Like he gets electrocuted. I'm like, why would you make that a feature of your gloves? But it actually was kind of like, I could see like when in a Marvel movie, when they do that and they like throw the screens and stuff, it looks stupid. It looks really dumb. But I kind of felt like the way he was doing in this movie didn't feel that dumb. Like it felt a little more practical, even if it was silly. I agree. I think we'll talk about the hacking at the end of the movie, which got kind of a little out there. But I actually really enjoyed that scene. I thought that was kind of interesting and clever.
Yeah, no, I liked it. It was funny how similar it was to Hackers, and like, oh, we're gonna be flying through space. There's gonna be like these abstract shapes, but it's kind of like a city and you're going places. This one at least had it seemed to be that there were programs that were being executed at least, but this one also came out later, so more people had used computers.
True.
Probably lots of people, because was this 95?
95, yes.
95. Some people had used the internet at this point, so I guess I didn't think about that when we were talking about Hackers. When that movie came out in 1990, almost no one had actually used the internet who would see the movie.
Well, and Hackers was also set in present day, versus this movie set in the future. So I think if the internet looked, I mean, obviously Hackers kind of pushed what the internet was at the time, but this needed to seem futuristic, and I think they got that across.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys remember the year 2021?
Oh yeah.
It was just like the movie foretold.
I didn't even spent a lot of time in cyberspace that year
with our gloves.
2021.
Crazy.
I love the Jesus guy. The Jesus guy was my favorite part of the movie.
Yes, the street preacher played by Dolph Lundgren.
It made absolutely no sense.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to. Like, that was what I liked about it. Was like, we're not going to explain like, oh, why is this guy like an assassin but also believes in Jesus? Like, no, you're just going to roll with it. I was like, great, yes, I will.
Sometimes it's better when you don't explain.
Yeah, the movie got crazier as it went on, like noticeably so, because you have like Street Preacher, you have Jones the Dolphin, which we will talk about. You have the weird ghostly AI, Ghost in the Machine, which I'm sure we'll talk about. It just got progressively stupider as the movie went on. As did I.
Stupider? I don't know.
No? No, it made a lot of sense.
I don't know if it made sense, but I appreciated those. Things. I love the dolphin. I was like, as soon as I saw the dolphin in the background, like while they're having all this exposition, I was like, okay, if they don't, this has got to be
they just don't mention it.
If this has got to be the MacGuffin, and if it's not, I guess it'll also be a cool bit of world building. But no, I'm glad the dolphin was so important. And also, like, you know, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy sort of reference. I loved it.
Yeah, Colby, I know you were excited to see Ice-T.
I just didn't. I wasn't expecting it, and then all of a sudden he was whatever, saving Johnny Mnemonic's life with his face tattoo or something. Like, oh, it's Ice-T.
Colby, I think you'd fit in well with the low techs.
Yeah, I could like hang on an abandoned bridge with a cyber dolphin. Sounds fun. Dropping bugs on dropping bugs on people.
Yeah, dropping whole flaming cars. I love that. What a great defense system. Ka-dunk in the car. That was great. Let's see what else. You know, we have a lot of. Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Oh, yeah, we should talk about the Ghost in the Machine. Was that like, because they said that, and the Ghost in the Machine is a real term of art now.
Mhm.
Was that the first time that phrase had been uttered? And I know this is actually based on a book, which I might be interested in reading. I don't know if that phrase was directly from the book.
I do not know. That's a really good question.
I'm gonna look it up. A 1967 book entitled "The Ghost in the Machine." So there you go.
Yeah, Anna, who was the president of Pharmacom, a great fake evil business name, who had her brain put in a computer before she died.
Another classic sci-fi thing.
And then just sort of
Pop it right in there.
Helps out. Now, guys, you might be shocked to hear this. I learned something reading the Wikipedia page I did not get from the movie. Did you know that woman, the president of Pharmacom, the AI, is supposed to be Johnny's mother?
Yes, I got that.
Oh, I did not get that.
That went right over my head.
Because she like talked to him, like specifically at some point, and there was like, oh, like blah blah blah, and then it was like a zoop, and then in the memory at the end, I think you kind of saw her.
Oh, was she the woman in the memory?
Yeah,
I didn't.
I
put
mean,
that
it
together.
was hard to tell that it was her, but I kind of had just assumed that it was her.
Yeah, I think my mind has melted by that point. All right. Well, there you go. I thought, I read that. Oh, who knew?
It was not hyper obvious. For sure.
Now, obviously, the big sort of driving factor of the film is NAS. We talked about this, a disease and illness affecting people that comes from technology, essentially. It's a little vague exactly what's causing it, but it is all the technology around. And Pharmacom has supposedly created a cure, but they don't want to put out the cure because the treatment makes them more money, which is a very kind of movie trope. And that's what Johnny Mnemonic is traveling with in their head.
Wasn't there also a thing, though, where the president Ghost in the Machine lady was like, no, you want to get the cure because think about how much money you'll make. Didn't someone say that? Because that makes sense to me. Like, I would have thought they were withholding the cure so that they could release it and make tons of money. But the only time someone said that was when they were trying to encourage the company to release it.
Yeah, I think the idea was that you cure someone once, but you treat them forever till they die.
Okay.
And there's more money in the treatment.
I see. Got it.
Because I think that's what Henry Rollins was doing in the makeshift hospital, was sort of like, see all these sick people, they want them sick. Yeah, are you guys worried about getting the black shakes?
I think I had that in 2020, 2021, actually. Yeah, I was sad they didn't go more into the disease. I was wondering if it was going to be a, Deus Ex or some of these other things where it's the implants that cause the the problems. And they sort of alluded to this, like there was the person in the club who had like too many implants and or something. But yeah, I would have liked more of that. And
Yeah, I mean,
did a little bit of, there was a little bit of like horror, body horror elements. Like some of like the gore scenes were pretty gross, and it could have been fun if they leaned into that with some of the implants, but they didn't.
well, that's like I'm saying about the street preacher. They're like, he's more machine than man. But you like never actually see it. You just see him like beat people up. Yeah, I agree with you. This movie had a lot of like loose ends they never really got around to. Instead, just trying to move the plot forward, and left a lot on the ground.
Yeah.
So something I was confused about, like, why did Pharmacon explode at the end?
Because it's a movie.
Okay, that wasn't like there wasn't a plan. It just like, did their computers overload or something?
According to Wikipedia, the Pharmacom headquarters goes up in flames from the public outcry. The public burns it. Now we don't see it. I think it was just a fitting. But I also thought the same thing. I'm like, wow, they blew that up fast.
Yeah, and I think we talked about in Hackers how like every TV or every movie from that era felt like it needed to have some sort of big destructive set piece thing. And this one definitely had that with the dropping the cars and all the firing the rockets at the bridge and all the stuff is exploding needlessly. It was like, okay, lots of explosions in this movie that's all about the internet, supposedly.
And by the way, same as Hackers, the grand broadcast the plan out to the whole world, so it's no longer a secret gimmick at the end as well.
Oh yeah, right. And then the 320 gigabytes, everyone was going to record it onto their VCRs from the 30-second video like television broadcast.
Once again, an amount of information that literally made his brain like fall through his nose, but they could put it out like on TV.
Right.
Very funny. And that's why I always laugh at movies that try to predict the future. I mean, at one point he uses a video payphone. You know, it's just these things that with that great AT&T product placement that they try and guess what the future's like, and they don't always hit it. Let's see. Anything else? I will mention this movie had a budget of $26 million. It only made $19 million at the U.S. box office. Generally considered a bomb at the time. 20% on Rotten Tomatoes, though it has become a bit of a cult film because it is very strange.
Definitely strange.
And then
when I was renting it, I saw the Rotten Tomatoes score and I was like, oh, got it.
I wouldn't dare show you a good movie. I will also show you the Johnny Mnemonic pinball table I found. Look at this from our friends at Williams, the ultimate mind game. And it is it's all, there's some close-up pictures on this pinball page of some of the different elements of the game. Let's see if I can pull these up. Yeah, so here's a close-up of it with Keanu Reeves, and there's all the different pieces from the movie all throughout it.
That's cool.
Made a cultural impact in pinball.
Yeah, I'm going to read this Wikipedia article because it sounds like there's a lot to this movie that I was not necessarily aware of.
Yeah, the backstory is really interesting, including the book it's based on. A lot of differences between that and the final movie, and then a lot of things that came in during the production of the film. So yeah, definitely an interesting history. For sure. Well, guys, as we approach the end of the program here, anything else you want to say before we get into our scoring of the film?
Oh, right. I forgot about the scoring. No, I mean, I enjoyed watching it. Maybe, yeah, I enjoyed watching it.
I'm pretty sure that I had watched this on like late night cable TV once because I didn't really realize it until the dolphin appeared, and then I was like, "Oh, I've definitely seen, I've definitely seen this before." But
Yeah, some things definitely stick with you.
right,
Turn to nightmares, even.
yeah.
Well, let's get into scoring. Last time we did Hackers, we scored it on 3 elements: on the technology of the film, on the cultural impact of the film, and then on our overall opinions as a movie. And I guess we can start with the technology piece of it, because that's what we're here for. And Dan, why don't you go first on this? What did you think of the technology of Johnny Mnemonic?
I mean, it felt less grounded way less grounded than Hackers. I mean, what sort of technology was there? There was VR, and that was pretty much it. Like nothing else was really there was VR and the internet. Nothing else was really discussed. So I'll give it a 2. Or is that a 5 or out of 10? I can't remember.
I believe it was out of 10.
I give it a 2.
Yeah,
Okay.
I also give it a 2. I think because the weird, like, just the nonsensical use of units of data, like the many gigabytes of stuff that was transported over the TV in 30 seconds. It just doesn't make sense. Also, the disc thing, like, why didn't they just carry the disc? I don't know. Maybe they explained that in the giant pre-movie crawl thing.
You only read the first half. You didn't finish it.
It was tough to keep up.
Yeah, no, it was bad.
Yeah, I would agree. I do think there were elements I did like. I didn't think all the technology was bad. And I do think like the idea of a wet wire was kind of cool. And some of the internet browsing stuff was interesting. Was it accurate to the future? Absolutely not. Was it a lot of gibberish? Sure. I'll give it a little higher than you guys. I'll give it a 4. Because I don't think it was like insanely out of whack. But yeah, there was a lot of junk in there that didn't make any sense, including the idea they still fax things. Nobody faxes things. So
I did like the scene when he was poking through the fax machine's buffers. That seems plausible.
I forgot about that.
That's true. They did use the word buffer. All right, I'll give it a 3 out of 10.
Right. Right.
Let's see, Dan. How high can we talk you into? Let's keep going. Remember when he doubled himself and the cyber dolphin?
Okay, well, actually, wasn't there something in the 90s where like Intel had like locked the performance of a CPU or something, and someone was selling like a RAM, or was that a Mac thing?
I vaguely recall.
Yes, the RAM. No, all right, never mind. All right, I give it a 4 out of 10, right? Because the RAM doubler was real. Here, I'm going to put it in the chat.
There you go. There you go. The infamous RAM doubler. This is good. Well, while we try and figure out what a RAM doubler is, we can move on to the next score here. We'll talk about cultural impact, which, Dan, this was one you meant a lot to you when we talked about Hackers, a movie that has sort of stuck around, elements of that still used today. What do you think the cultural relevancy of this movie is?
Like, I don't know, 0, 1 out of 10. I had never heard of this movie, and I'm a huge nerd.
Okay, fair.
Nothing else to say.
0. What about you, Colby?
Well, apparently, I'm pretty sure that I've seen it before, so I'll give it a 4. I guess it's culturally relevant to me.
Yeah, to Colby alone. There's an asterisk on that. Colby only.
I also really liked the TV tornado in Heaven. I don't know if that is a thing, but I liked it. The pile of TVs.
Again, the idea that we could never make one giant screen. It would have to be a bunch of small screens put together. Love it. Very, very of the genre. Yeah, I mean, there's certainly the dolphin, and I'd known a little bit about this movie before seeing it. It's kind of gone around on the infamous bad movies circuit. If you listen to podcasts or anything that do that sort of thing, no, I don't think it. If it weren't a Keanu Reeves movie, I don't think anyone would ever talk about it again. And it's only because it stars him that people bring it up. So I'll give it like a 2. I mean, it's pretty insignificant in that respect. And then finally, what do you thought of it as a movie overall, as a cinema going experience? Did you enjoy it, Dan? What did you think?
I did enjoy it because it was weird. I wouldn't say it was a good movie though. So I think I have to give it like a solid 5 or a 6. Like, I don't think it was a bad movie, actually. Like it especially the latter half, the weird shit kept happening that kept me interested. I was like, wow, like what's gonna happen next? Like that's not nothing. So I give it a 5.
Respectable. What about you, Colby?
I think I'd say a 6. I enjoyed watching it. I probably wouldn't watch it again, but I was also doing chores and stuff while I was watching it, so maybe, I'm not sure if I would have enjoyed it quite as much if I was just like strapped to a chair.
Like a punishment?
Right? Or no, with the helmet on your head?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, the mouth guard in.
Having it beamed into my brain while I grimaced aggressively.
Yeah. If my fax machine starts spitting out 3 images, I know Colby saw the movie. Yeah, I strongly agree with both of you. I think the low quality of the movie comes up with my enjoyment of the movie, and it lands somewhere in that 5 range where, no, I don't think I ever need to see this again. I'm glad I rented it and didn't buy it, but I'm glad I saw it. And now I can say I've seen it. So definitely not their movies. I am a guy, if I don't like a movie, I shut it off. I will not finish a movie I'm not enjoying. And I enjoyed watching it all the way through. So definitely solid for Johnny Mnemonic. One more off our list, guys. Before we go, I think we need to pick another movie if you're up for that.
Let's do it.
Now, is there a certain direction you want to go? Do you want to go stay in this sort of goofy, overdone? You want to go a little more realistic? What do you think? I could start naming off some options in both directions.
I think we should do something more realistic.
More realistic. All right. Well, then I might something more in the hackers realm. Let's see. War Games with Matthew Broderick, I think is less silly. I would say the Pirates of Silicon Valley, the movie about Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. The only thing is that one's going to be a tough one to find streaming. I might have to find a less legal copy and send it to you guys. But we can certainly watch it. Made for TV movie. What else? Minority Report. Famous for some of the, predicting some future technology in that. Maybe not as technology focused.
What's The Net?
The Net is that lands a little more on the goofy side. That is Sandra Bullock on the run, and it's a hacking movie. I would say it's similar to Hackers, except like it's Hackers meets Johnny Mnemonic, to be honest with you, where it's kind of the goofy stuff of Johnny Mnemonic, but in the real world of Hackers. I think we'd enjoy it. To be honest, I've never seen it. This is just based on what I know.
Nice. What do you think, Dan?
I think doing the Pirates of Silicon Valley could be a big change, because is that more documentary-ish?
No, it's all actors. It's all
okay.
It's a fictionalized story of the real people.
That's my vote.
I'm down with that.
Sure.
I'm down with that. All right. I will see. Like I said, it is not streaming anywhere. Oh, is it on YouTube? No, it says unavailable. I will find us a copy. And make sure we can watch that. Awesome. Good. Well, that'll be fun. Anything else, gentlemen, this evening? No, all is good. I know you're excited. I hear those tummies rumbling because we got you eating later this week. These guys are going to be chock full of breakfast cereal coming up on the Up for Debate podcast. It is Sean Tember, and we are taping later this week with Colby and Dan, who will be joining Matt and I to taste test 6 of America's most popular, least popular, and unknown cereals. And we're going to render our verdict. And it's going to be a lot of fun. You guys have your cereals in hand. Let's see if you can hold off for a couple days before you dig in. Although feel free to. I don't really care. But I do have a bunch of milk. I'm very excited. It's going to be great. So it's over on Up for Debate and upfordebate.tv, wherever you get podcasts. Look for that. Of course, our show is Don't Panic at don'tpanic.io. The audio and the video of all the episodes are there. Of course, you can subscribe wherever you get podcasts with the video version on YouTube to see our lovely faces. And of course, you can get a hold of us. don'tpanicshow@gmail.com is our email address. We want to hear from you. That's going to do it for this episode, though. We got to wrap it up here. On behalf of Colby and Dan, I'm Sean. We're going to see you next time for more tech movies and good times on another episode of Don't Panic.